God is good, and with each day that passes brings us a day closer to the launch of Pantheon Rise of the Fallen. This is the NAPALM channel, and if you are new here, please consider subscribing, especially if you're interested in Pantheon related content, because that's what we do here. Guys, today I want to talk about the Tohrn Elves. So we learned a little bit about them in the latest newsletter back in August 2019, and I wanted to touch on what we know about them and a little bit about what they said. So basically, in the wilds of Terminus, there is a particular sect of elves that are very different than what you may assume or what we know about the elf race. These are the Tohrn Elves. They're very mysterious, very secretive, and most people have never even seen them before and have only heard the rumors and people whispering about them. So they're kind of legendary. They're kind of something of legend and something that, you know, maybe some inhabitants might not even think they exist at all. So we're going to talk not only about what we know about them, we're going to be looking at the models that they showed us, and we're also going to be talking about the design behind them. So first of all, first question comes up, of course, would be, who are the Tohrn Elves? So they are a cult of elves that live in service of the god Tohrn, who is also known as the Endless Inferno. Tohrn Elves starts to make sense now. And their way of life is very, very different than the standard elven life, with what they say to have grave consequences. So, as part of the process of becoming a Tohrn, elves have to demonstrate a complete rejection of the fair tale life, the relationships, and all the norms that come along with it, surrendering their autonomy in favor of gaining a supernatural gift known as Tohrn's sight. So how does their leadership work? Alright, so they have a hierarchy. There are a few levels to that. Now, most of them are located in what is known as the Murk. The majority of the population of the Tohr are there, and there is a priestly order that functions in a primitive council-like manner, but there's a tinge of anarchy to them, and often this reduces to an argument of might makes right. In other locations, they have, well, another leader. So, what's their place in Terminus, and how do the other races feel about them? Well, they're pretty much a fanatical sect of self-desecrating, swamp-dwelling cultists. So, friends are pretty hard to come by. Few races outside of Fairhell have interactions with the Tohrn at this point, unless they are intentionally entering their domain in the Murk for an expedition. Tohrn Elves see the Tohrn almost as another race entirely, and you can definitely see why, at least once they pledge to Tohrn and become part of the cult. This stems from the elven history with this particular deity and the group that was their primary foe back on their home world. So there's a lot of betrayal to the actual race of becoming a Tohr for the elves. And you know, so with the history behind it and of their homeworld, it's kind of like betraying your own race should you turn and join this sect, this cult, as an elf and become one. So the next question is, what were the primary directives given to the art team in regards to the lore, and how did the team interpret them? So the character artist, Will Berry, says, I received some pointers prior to modeling about the context of the Tohrn Elves and their backstory. Most of the interpretation for the model came from the concept. Also said, we wanted a kit that was quite distinct from the normal elves, a true subversion, but also that retained some identifiable traits. So we started with the story and the environment, and then tried to imagine how elves who walk this path would choose to clothe themselves. Even if the Tohrn are a counterpart to elven culture in every single way, we needed to build their design off of that first point to properly counter it. On a detail level, we also wanted to cover the pristine in all seasons elven look with actual mud and filth, which Will did a great job pulling from the concept. You have to get pretty close to see it, but it speaks so clearly about the world they live in. And I find that part interesting because when you think of an elf, you think of them all clean and beautiful, and their hair is perfect, and you know, their skin looks like they bathed in moisturizer every day, that kind of thing. So this is a very different, you know, they're literally, it seems like you could take anything you think about an elf and just flip it, And that's what the Tohrn is, from the description, the art, and everything that we see so far. So the next question is to Will, the character artist, and it says, after you get the initial concept sketches, what's the next step for you? What's the process to take that to a realized finished piece? And Will answers, for roguelike items, I generally start on the cloth first, using Marvelous Designer or 3D coat cloth simulations. Once the cloth folds following the concept, I'd start on the rest of the model. From there, all the detail and shape is put into the high poly model, and then that is formed to a game resolution version. Base textures are baked from high poly to low poly, and finals are done in Substance Painter and Unity. The final steps are to skin it, add weight painting, and export it for in-game setup by Daniel. And then they ask what programs you use to bring the Tohrn Elves to life. Will's answer is ZBrush, Maya, Blender, Substance Painter, etc. How long did it take to work on? And Will answers, it took a week and a half from start to finish. The headdress took another few days. The next question was, what were the challenges for each of you during the process? The answer is making sure that we properly incorporated the previous design elements of the elves without making a flimsy bad guy version. There needed to be a starting point that shared some base elements, but also an organic identity really grew on its own curve. Hopefully these elements are only obvious if you look closely. And Will says, styling the cloth folds and adding additional details to the outfit. And we got some pretty good screenshots. We got the 3D rotation model, and it does look really cool, man. So first of all, I really want to point out how cool the freaking armor looks, right? That headpiece with the bones, it's got a very tribal, very raw feeling, and it really does. If you look at the design, it's almost like you can tell that an elf designed it, but a really twisted elf, right? Like one that has completely went against his ways. And that's what they were going for. It's literally like the definition of what a Tohrn is. It reminds me, actually, I watched a documentary one time, and I'm pretty sure, I could be getting this all mixed up, I'm pretty sure it was in India, where they have these kind of very strict, very religious kind of habits and things that they do to stay clean. You know, and they take it into very far territory, but there's a sect of people in India, if I'm getting the country right, and I'm pretty sure I am, that do the very opposite. You know, they cover themselves in filth and their own feces and that kind of thing. They just literally do everything the opposite of what society has taught them to do. And that's kind of what this reminds me of. It's the first thing I thought of when I was reading about the Tohrn Elves, and I love this world of Terminus, okay? The more we learn about it in these little lore pieces and these little informational things where we learn about different creatures and things like that, and I'm going to go back and do some others, because there's some other really cool ones where you just kind of start to get this feel for the world and how cool the lore and the non-playable characters that inhabit Terminus and how awesome they all really are, and how much depth actually goes into it and how much insight and thought they put into it. Alright, obviously they're working on Project Ferret Hell, so this is a Ferret Hell type creature, right? The elves. So this is a very twisted version of the elves. I love it. I thought it was cool. I knew I had to make a video about it, kind of show you guys how awesome they look. And once again, we're at that point where the game's not out yet. You know, we got a while to go, I would say, and we're learning about this world. And these are the kind of things that once the game's out, there are people who will still research and, of course, all this kind of thing. But for a lot of us, now is the time to really dive in deep. Chris Kane is a great reference here on YouTube. If you want to check out his channel, I'll put a link for that at the end of the video, so you can get right to his channel. And he does lore videos, the best on the internet as far as I'm concerned, and great voice for it too. I mean, he's definitely a voice actor, by far and large the best voice on YouTube. I think that's fair to say. But anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video today, and I hope you're looking forward to Terminus and all the wonderful creatures and inhabitants that will live within it. And I hope you're prepared to live with them in this virtual world as I am. Guys, until next time though, God bless and happy gaming. Listen to what I say. I've been making videos all day. My friends all say I'm it's a video buffet, you can even hit replay. But please just subscribe. I can't even describe being part of my tribe. I'll even offer you a prize, but just please just subscribe and hit the bell notification too.